Well, welcome, Geoff. Thanks for joining us today.
No worries.
So the 2021 US Open is beginning tonight, Australian time in Torrey Pines on the South Course in San Diego. I think this year we have 7 Aussies vying for the title. Who's your pick of the Aussies, Geoff?
It'd be hard to go past Leash, I think, as sort of maybe our favourite. He won there a couple of years ago. I think it was a couple of years ago, maybe even this year. I don't know. He won there pretty recently. And it's a long hitters course. So, I think Cam, obviously Scotty is always a chance. I'm not sure that the greens at Torrey would be to completely his liking, but he has won at Riviera, Scotty, and they've kind of similar sort of surface. So maybe. And it might be a too big a test for Cam, but I don't know. Rocco made the playoff last time in 2008. Cam certainly a longer hitter than Rocco. So I'd say Leash is probably our favourite, and he seems to be a man for a big occasion, and he loves Torrey Pines. He's always said that Torrey Pines was one of the places he thought he was going to play well. So he'd probably be our favourite.
Yeah, I think it was last year that he won there. Now, you've played in the US Open 13 times, I believe. Is that right? Yep.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah.
Most notably was the 2006 US Open for obvious reasons. So you come here today with some pretty good credentials. The viewers will notice that we're joined here. We're not in the same room. We're joined electronically via Zoom. We're in, I think, week 3 of the Melbourne snap lockdown. So thanks under the circumstances for joining us here.
No worries.
How's lockdown been for you? What have you been up to?
You know what? It's pretty boring. I make sure the kids get on their devices in the morning, make sure they get up. They like to get up really late and just roll onto their iPad or computer and do school. And then just sit around. I'm actually moving house, so I've had a bit of stuff to do around the house and packing and all that sort of stuff. So I've actually had something to keep me busy. But I haven't minded the short lockdown, but I don't want it to turn into one of those things we had last winter, because that was brutal. Because there's only so many balls you can hit in your garage, freezing cold in your garage or something, or putt along the carpet or something. At some point, you've got to get outside.
Yeah, you end up clocking whatever's on Netflix in the end, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you run out of Netflix. You run out of Netflix shows. Yeah.
That's right. Phil Mickelson. Let's talk about him for a minute. He's been the runner-up at the US Open 6 times. I did a little bit of research, including your victory in 2006. But now he's seemingly, at 50 years of age, playing some of the best golf he's ever played. How's he doing this?
Well, I'll have to ask him, and then maybe I can do the same. But I think it goes back a while. He's obviously one of the most gifted golfers we've seen for the last 50, 100 years anyway. He's an all-time great anyway. The guy's won 40 or 50 tournaments in America. That's pretty outrageous. About 8 or 9 or 10 years ago or something, he got some sort of arthritis diagnosis. And it wasn't one of the really bad ones, but it was one where he had to kind of adjust his diet. If he adjusted his diet, then it seemed to help him function fine, and it kind of went away. So he got right into nutrition and health and fitness and started really getting into seeing how much further he hit the ball. And I don't know, he's just kind of got a bit of a new lease on life in that respect, I think, because he probably wasn't when I first got there, he was eating 50 pieces of bacon for breakfast every morning. It was quite amazing.
Yeah.
He'd go to In-N-Out Burger and have 6 burgers to himself and stuff. He was just that guy, lived to extremes and stuff. And now he's living that healthy extreme, and it seems to have made him a bit ageless, or sort of he's found a bit of youth in his golf game. So his credentials have never been in doubt, I don't think. I just think he's got a bit of new lease of motivation, or he's found a way to keep himself a bit more ageless or something. I don't know. But it was amazing at Kiawah what he did. That was completely. There's playing well, and then there's winning a major. There's difference. And he looks like the best player in the field all week, which is amazing for a 50-year-old. He's turned 51 today, I think.
Oh, is he? Okay.
So I believe so, yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Phil, if that is the case. You put it down to health and wellness. That's interesting. There's maybe we should have been listening to the doctors and nutritionists the whole way along. I've already asked you who the best of the Aussies that you believe in. You've said Leash, probably number 1. Maybe Cameron Smith might be able to surprise us. Any of the younger guys that have come onto the scene, any of those guys going to battle for the last few groups on the last day, do you think?
The younger guys, Australians or all?
Yeah, the Aussies.
You know what? It's tough. It's tough if you haven't played a ton of majors. And Torrey Pines is also a little bit different in that there's a PGA Tour event there every year. And so the guys who have played on the PGA Tour 5-10 years have probably played Torrey 25 or 30 times, and they're really experienced at playing a tournament there. So I think Torrey in particular would be more difficult for a younger guy who hasn't played as many than it would be quite often you go to a major, you turn up at Pinehurst and no one's ever been there, or they've only been there 10 years ago or something, or you go to some Chambers Bay and no one had ever played the course, so everyone's starting off on the same foot. And I think that's a little different. This one, I would have played 15 tournaments at Torrey Pines, maybe more. So it'd be difficult for a guy who's first time there to beat that sort of experience. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough. I'm not exactly sure who our young guys are in the field. Like, who are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, I'm reading off the names here. Brad Kennedy, Wade Ormsby, Stephen Allen, Adam Scott, Leishman, Cam Smith, Jason Day, and Matt Jones.
Okay, well, Jason's out because of his back. And Jason would be maybe our favourite around there because he's won there as well. And the other guys, Brad and Stevie Allen, I mean, hopefully they have a great week. I mean, Brad's played unbelievable in Australia and Japan for the last 10 or 15 years, but it's his strength is sort of consistency and like sort of gradually wearing down a golf course. Torrey is sort of course you have to brutalise a little bit because it's just so long. So it's going to be tough for him. Stevie Allen, he's like some way a legend of Australian golf. I mean, he's been a pro since the mid-90s. He's always seems to sort of make it work a little bit. You know, he's played sort of 10 years, 4 or 5 years in Europe, 10 years in America. He's been kind of trying to qualify for the last 5 or 6 years. So it's awesome to see him back in it. He must be like 47, 48 by now, Stevie. So yeah, hopefully, look, US Opens are tough. And if you're not playing regularly, and as I said, they're tough if you're not playing regularly and you haven't probably played Torrey a bunch of times, but you never know. I'll stick with Leash and Cam and Scotty.
Fair enough. What for the likes of yourself, who's won it before? Do you get certain playing privileges there, or is it the case where you win it 1 year and then the next year you're treated like everyone else? How does that work?
Oh no, in those sort of usually when you've won a tournament, if it's a regular tournament, it's on all the time like a major. You certainly get a bit spoilt when you go back. When I go back to US Open, I always, even though I'm not exempt anymore, I mean you get an exemption for 10 years and you play it all. You certainly, the USGA would be calling me a few weeks before. Is this enough tickets for you this week, Geoff? Do you need it? Do you need anything this week? And I'm sure all the past champions get the same. Yeah, so it's still a level playing field, but they certainly make sure that your week goes well and you do get a little bit looked after. But that's the same if you win the Phoenix Open or the Buick Classic, wherever it is. Usually, if you've ever won a tournament, the tournament director will always come find you before the tournament, make sure everything's going all right. Yeah, they love tournaments, especially in America. They're great for their past champions. They're really, really good. It doesn't matter how long ago you won their tournament. So certainly you get some advantages forever after winning one.
They've got good customer experience that I'd say the USJ would have a tough job getting you over there to play this year. Not so much you as a player, but solving this worldwide scenario that we're in. Not sure that's something that they can solve.
No, it's a tough world at the moment. It's a tough world at the moment for that, yeah.
All right, well, we might get on to the Big Swing Golf follower questions who submitted them via our social media accounts. You ready?
Go for it, yeah.
Great. So the first question is from Wade. Now, to give a bit of background information as to how this question came about, in the post that we put on there, we gave a couple of suggestions of what they might ask, and one of them was, what did you eat for breakfast the day before you won? And so Wade has asked the question, well, what did you eat for breakfast before your 2006 triumph? Do you remember?
You know what? I don't. America is very consistent in like things like food and stuff. And so pretty much there's a breakfast buffet basically at every tour event and every hotel, obviously in America. And they're always very similar. You know, there's an egg chef who's cooking you eggs. There's the fruit, there's the hash browns, there's the bacon or whatever. And I was pretty consistently would always have 2 or 3 fried eggs on toast for breakfast, 1 or 2 pieces of bacon, 3 or 5 pieces of bacon if it was good bacon, avocado and tomato or something like that. It was always eggs and usually fried because when they made the scrambled eggs, they'd pour it out of a carton and stuff sometimes, and that scared me, that stuff. So I'd usually 2 or 3 fried eggs on a couple of pieces of toast. I got memories from there, though. We stayed in the Crowne Plaza in White Plains, New York for 2 weeks because we played Westchester the week before, which is just around the corner from Winged Foot. And so we were all there, and quite often there'd be an Aussie or two that would have the tube of Vegemite and bring it to breakfast every morning. Got memories of being in that hotel eating Vegemite at breakfast. So there might have been a Vegemite involved, but we stayed in that hotel every year, so it might not have been that year, but we'll go for eggs and toast and maybe Vegemite.
Okay, well, I'm sure some of the pros would have carried around their own food if they had a particular taste. I know Ash Barty in the tennis world carries around a jar of Vegemite wherever she goes.
Yeah, there's the odd Aussie, yeah. And I think part of it in America too is just like you like to freak the Americans out because they think Vegemite's just bizarre, right? So
that's because they layer it on thick like you would with peanut butter. That would, of course, that'd be a horrible spread if they put that much on.
And they also have a very sweet taste bud rather than less savoury than ours. I mean, I think we go for more the savoury side. Everything there is more sweet. I think it's just the way the country is, you know. But they do it completely wrong. If you actually make it for them properly, And you've got to get them ready for the taste before they taste it. They're expecting some sort of jam or breakfast spread or Nutella or something, and it's clearly not that, right? So it's interesting. It's fun. It's fun to mess with people.
Facial expressions would be interesting. All right. Next question is from Alexandra. They ask, what was your handicap when you won the US Open?
I wouldn't know, but Whisperock, the club that I mostly played at in Scottsdale, used to put all our handicaps on the board for fun off the tour events. And so the tour events, the slope, I don't even understand how the slope was, but like the course rating would be like 77 every day or something, right? On a tour event because of how long, and it ticked all those boxes for the average handicap golfer. It would have been like a 77 rated course. And we'd shoot 69 or something. So that would be +8. So on all the boards, Whisperock, I was always kind of between +5 and +7. But saying that, they did it in a weird way. Like they did it from tour rounds. You know what I mean? John Rahm at Whisperock recently, like when I last was at Whisperock, was like +8.5 or something. And he clearly doesn't shoot 9 under every round, or 8.5 under every round, but something like that. I think most tour players, especially when they're like right in the top 50 in the world, like right up there, they're probably +4 to +7, like realistically, compared to a club golfer. Yeah, it's pretty amazing actually when you think about it.
Yeah, well, the conditions would certainly be different, for myself playing as a club golfer on a weekend as opposed to you guys playing, during a competition. It's set up to be more difficult for you guys. So you'd imagine the handicap have to represent that, wouldn't it?
There's always a lot of talk at the US Open because people are like, oh, you guys are just complaining. It's just so hard. But if an average, it's just a normal scratch handicapper played a US Open setup, they'd shoot mid-80s, or more. A 12 handicap or 18 handicap, or like a more normal sort of club golfer, 18 handicap, they're not going to finish almost. Like it's just nonsense how hard it is. And it's not really that we can do it only because we kind of do it every week. It's not because we're actually got any, like, the skill is derived from just doing it so much more often. And our regular tour events have got long rough and long holes anyway. So it's just a maxed out tour event. So we're just conditioned to be able to handle it, but it's amazingly difficult on the US Open.
Right. Next question is from Jake. He asks, what was going through your head after the chip-in on the 17th? Now, I presume he's talking about 2006.
Yeah, obviously all sorts of stuff. Like it was quite surprising, like that it went in. You're trying to chip it in or you're trying to chip it close, and like you chip in somewhat regularly, like, I don't know, once every 2 or 3 weeks or something on tour. Like sometimes you chip in twice in a week and sometimes you don't chip in for a month, but like it's quite common to chip in, especially little chips like that. So it's not a surprise that I chipped in, but the ramifications of the chip in would run through your head really fast. It was like, I don't know, from like, wow, how good's that? Wow, people who win do stuff like that, to, oh, I'm in the tournament, all sorts of different stuff. Yeah.
Be easy to get ahead of yourself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was such a strange sort of way that tournament was ending. Even from my perspective, like I'd sort of frittered it away. I was kind of in the lead, I think, after about 6, or tied, or 1 in front, like after 6 or 7. And then gradually I had 2 or 3 bogeys to the last few holes. And I think I was a couple back and I sort of I had winning out of my head those last few holes. And then I chipped it in as like winning was back in my head for sure, because that was for par as well. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of different stuff. Excitement mostly, yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Well, the crowd would have had a bit of an excitement about them too. The next question is from Robert. He asked, what was going through your mind while you're watching the last group come through on the 18th? Because I know you finished at least one playing group prior, and so you would have been thinking, all right, I'm in with a chance, but I'm not in the lead. What was going through your mind at that stage?
Yeah, I was second last group, and I was in the scorer's hut with Poulter, who was my playing partner for the day, and there was a TV in there. So we were watching the TV, we watched Phil drive, miss the fairway, which wasn't that outrageous because everybody was missing the fairway, or most people were missing the fairway. You just kind of assume that he had to make par to win by a shot. If he made bogey, we were in a playoff. And he ended up making double. And it was just, when he hit his second shot, it went into a tree and dropped down. And now he was going to be 200 yards away from the green, or 180 yards away from the green after 2 shots. Now it's like, wow, I'm definitely going to be in a playoff, And then he hit it in the bunker and plugged it in the back left bunker. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be unlucky not to win right now, And this was all in a minute. I went from good week, you're going to finish second, to the progression of 2 shots. It went from, oh, nice week, to, wow, I'm going to win. This is pretty hard to believe. It was still quite surreal. 2 or 3 times in my life, I was like really close, and I'd be that guy on the range, like Garrett Higo was last week. I'm on the range and the cameras are there and I'm like getting ready for the playoff. And so Davis Love chipped in from like 40 meters or something at Hilton Head one year, and I'm put the club, walk back to the locker room and I lose, and a couple of they make the putt in the last, and like everybody has those experiences if you're up there a few times. But the one experience that actually like really went my way crazily was the US Open. So it was like surreal that it happened in the US Open, you know. And did I just really win the US Open? What do you mean? And this all happened in the space of about a minute. Like it was crazy. It was a weird little thing. But I was mostly watching in the scorer's hat. And then as Phil came up to the last green, they didn't want me anywhere. They didn't want me or Poulter anywhere near Phil when he came in to do his card. So it was in the pro shop, the scorer's hut at Wingfoot. So we walk across this little breezeway between this, where the golfers walk from the car park, and then you just went across into the locker room, and they had all the cameras and the TV. We could watch in there. So it was a weird scene, but it was amazing.
So why did they want to keep you away from Phil at that stage?
Well, the scorer's hut is kind of a bit of a sanctuary for us. You know, cameras aren't allowed in there generally. It's a time for decompression and unrecorded vocal complaining and stuff. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just a sanctuary for us. Like, it's one of those unwritten rules that you just don't go. It's just like, it's your spot, you know? Yeah. And look, once they see what's happening with Phil, they certainly don't want to present Phil with me when he walks in the scorer's hut. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want that either, you know? Oh, well done, shame, you know? Like,
yeah. You'd probably want to be out there celebrating with people anyway. You don't want to be in the scorer's hut for any longer than you needed to be.
No, well, yeah, they dragged us across into the locker room, and Julie and I were there with the cameras and around us, and a few other people, and Lynchy, I think, was around, and a few others, yeah. And they just get surrounded. You just get surrounded by the media, basically like notepads and pens and for recorders, you know, in your face and stuff, and cameras and stuff. Yeah, interesting. They want that instant reaction, right? They want to be the first one with the quote and the story.
Oh, yeah, of course. You didn't say anything too untoward, did you?
I don't think so.
So the next question in here is from Margaret. She says, do you have a strategy to cope with nervousness when things get tight? We're talking about it here. How is the nerves when you're in the scorer's hut, or maybe coming up the 18th? Do you have any strategies to deal with that?
I think, I mean, I learned a few over the time. I mean, it's what you hear this and you read it in books and everyone's like, just breathe. But like, breathing is quite an interesting thing to focus on, because if you focus on just breathing, and that means you're focusing on breathing and not something else. You know, the nervousness is usually fear or worry about it's going to go wrong or what's going to happen, or I would like tense my hands or something, like really squeeze the hands on the grip and then let them go. I found that was two things. I mean, usually if I was in a big situation, I would make sure to not walk too fast, because the tendency for most people, if you watch a kid, or if you watched me, the first couple of times I got in contention on big things, you just do everything fast. You just want to get it over with. And I think that's attached to the fear. So we'll be trying to slow it down. I used to observe Tiger a lot. And Tiger's dad was obviously well written about and talked about how his influence on Tiger and stuff. But his mum, she was Thai and of a Buddhist background. And she used to teach him how to sort of meditate on the golf course a little bit. And Tiger on like a Thursday and a Friday would be chatty and like a normal golfer, but you come like get in contention like late Saturday afternoon when he's trying to get the last group, and like Sunday, you would watch him and he would be the last guy to the ball. He would work at a really measured pace, like a metronome. Like he was just very obviously like just at a really like slow rhythm, and like just not playing slow, but you know what I mean? Just not doing stuff fast. And so I had a talk with Butch Harmon and stuff one day, and he said he did that sort of stuff. So I'd like, just breathing. And as I found it, like tension in your hands too, like if I'd squeeze my grip really, really hard for about 5 seconds and then you let it go, it's like all of a sudden your hands let go, you know, something, I don't know if there's any science behind it, but
I'm sure there would
breathing
be.
Usually.
Cool. Next question is from Desiree. I hope I haven't mispronounced that, but how did you celebrate after the win?
Well, as I mentioned before, we were at the Crowne Plaza in White Plains, New York, and we'd been there for 2 weeks. And this was a hotel we stayed at every year for the Westchester tournament. So we were familiar with it. It was a nice place. And the bar downstairs with this kind of one of those, it was sort of an atrium hotel, you know, where like the bar, like it goes up and it's quite a big, it was a nice spot. I actually wasn't, but it was a big high room. And everybody who walked into the hotel walked through kind of next to the bar. It was one of those setups. And so we just, by the time we got out, because you don't finish till like 7 or something in the US Open, it's quite a late finish, and all the media and stuff, I probably didn't get back till like 9 o'clock, and got back to the hotel and just went straight to the hotel bar. I think I'd had a couple of beers at the golf course maybe, but we just had a few drinks and people just came through. You know, Lynchy was there, my coach, Scotty came back, Scotty hung out, a few caddies, a few media guys in like a non-media capacity, and then like a whole bunch of people who'd been to the tournament or they walked through the bar and they'd come. So there was probably 50 people who drank out of the trophy that night. It was really kind of cool. It was like a crowd share, like a community party. Like, it was really, really good fun, and it went really deep. All sorts of different stuff out of the beer, and then champagne and wine and all sorts of stuff out of the trophy. Yeah, it was a fun night. It was as it should have been. It was good. And it wasn't like a little private room with just fancy tour players or anything. It was the punters who were staying in the hotel. It was great. Yeah.
Open to the public. Love it. Well, you can imagine what Sunday night this weekend, whoever wins the US Open, are they going to be passing around a jug with something in it? Like, under the current COVID circumstance, surely they're not going to be doing that.
Well, I reckon they probably will. I mean, I think
they'll just go for it anyway.
It's just, and it's in America too. They seem to be a little bit more blasé about that sort of situation than we are at the moment. So I don't know what would be right or wrong, but if you win the US Open, I think you get your friends involved and you just have a bit of fun. Maybe you all have your own straw. COVID safe, like straw.
Yeah, I'm no hygienist, but I'm pretty sure the germs will still transfer through a straw. Anyway, I mean, the last question I have about the US Open this year, who's your bet to take it home? Apart from Leash, who you think's the best place Aussie, across the whole board, who do you think's?
I would think Rahm should be the favourite. Now, it's a little weird because he's had 2 weeks that have at least a compromised preparation, I think. I mean, because he had to stay in Columbus, and he wouldn't have had the practice set up, and he probably wouldn't have played. He might have played an extra tournament that he hasn't played, but he's won there before. He's long. He seems to play well there, and he's unbelievable around the greens. Probably the best around the greens, like the most flair around the greens. That Spanish sort of short game of those big long bombers. I think it'll be a long guy, because I think Torrey's a really challenging course lengthwise, and I think if you miss fairways, it's just such an advantage to be strong to hit out of the rough. So Dustin, Brooks, Rory, Xander, usual suspects. But I think Rahm would be the pick of those, because he was just leading a tournament by 6 after 54 holes. So he's clearly playing well. Memorial's a little bit of a precursor for US Open, because it's kind of got some US Open type feel about it. The only question, look, golf is random, so who really knows? But he'd be my favourite, I think.
He deserves a win, doesn't he? How unlucky was it last week? That's your worst nightmare, isn't it? The last round of golf, to have that happen. You got to feel for the guy.
History's going to look weird at that. They're going to see that John Rahm was 6 in front and got pulled out of the tournament in like 50 years because he had the cold or something. It's like in 50 years, that's going to look crazy, Yeah. But right now, it's normal, yeah.
People are going to speculate for many reasons why that occurred.
Yeah.
Next question is from Michael. He asks, hi, Geoff. Do the West Coast golf fans create a different atmosphere to, say, the southern states or over in Europe/Asia?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Wherever you play in the world, you can tell kind of where you are. Or at least the crowd, the fans have a personality. I'd say the pick of the fans is Scotland. Scottish fans are just... And the pick of the fans, and I would say that because the best way to measure, at least for me, I don't know any other guy on tour, but I think you'd get similar refrain. If we hit a shot into a green that we can't see the result, like it's kind of just over a bunker lip or it's just over a hill and like you can't see the surface of the green. In Scotland, you can tell within a couple of feet where your ball is by the way the crowd is. Like you can tell if it's 6 feet, if it's 12 feet, if it's 25 feet, you can tell if it trickles over the back. You could just tell. In America, generally, you can't tell. Certainly, you could tell the West Coast fans are a bit more golf educated. New York fans are very sports crazy, but they're more about the drama and the big hit and the screaming and being heard, more of a baseball kind of crowd. So it's a little different about the golf. They'll cheer more for a ball that spins than a ball that goes close. And New York fans will yell at you in your face from just on the other side of the rope. They'll be 3 feet from you and they'll just yell straight in your face. If you ignore them, they'll just keep yelling at you. But if you give them something back, they're great. Doesn't matter. They can abuse you and you say, yeah, g'day, mate, thanks for that. And then they're your friend. They just want interaction. It's different. It changes all around the world for sure. In Sweden, they clap in rhythm. So you're walking up the last hole or something and the stands are full. They start clapping and after a couple of seconds, they all line up and it starts clapping in a rhythm. It's really weird, but kind of cool. Yeah, everywhere's got a personality. It's different. It's different. Yeah, and the continent changes. Look, Scotland, as I said, is Scotland, Britain and Ireland and that. They're really educated and they really know their game and they really appreciate a good shot. Even a downslope, semi-rough in a divot with a left to right wind to with out of bounds on the right or something, and you hit it to 40 feet left of the pin, and they're like, well, that's better than the guy who hit a wedge to 3 feet because it was like a quality shot, like they get that. And it's really sort of, it's nice to play in front of people who appreciate what you just did. And Britain, you definitely get that a lot more than you do in, say, other places for sure. But that's what's fun about the job, is you get a variety of people to play in front of. But as I said, the nicest ones to play in front of, the nicest feeling are the ones who seem to really appreciate the good shot for what it was, not just the ball spun back a lot or something.
And how would the Aussies, what are we closest aligned to in terms of the way we interact with players and applaud a good shot?
We're pretty good. I think we're pretty good. Australian fans or supporters, because we've had less of it than, say, we used to, like people aren't as kind of practiced at going to golf tournament. Maybe like when 20, 30 years ago when there was, when a $300,000 tournament was a big tournament worldwide and we had like 15 of them and Norman would play 5 or 6 and stuff, people were more golf tournament ready, like on Thursday. But our sort of crowds seem to be like completely lost the first couple of days. By Saturday or Sunday, they really get it. So they learn really fast. Does that make sense? So they by the time you get to those last few groups on Saturday and Sunday, our fans are great. Yeah, it's brilliant. But the first couple of days, they're kind of, I don't know. They've been watching golf in the US tour. It's just different. I don't know. Does that make sense? We learn fast.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have less competitions here to start with, so it might take a little while for us to understand what's going on and how it's all playing out. Next question is from Hannah. She's asking, what are your top 3 golf moments? In the interest of time, let's choose one that isn't the US Open. Aside from the US Open win, what's your best golf moment?
If it's from a tour perspective, I just loved the match play tournaments. I'll put the 2 that I won in that were just, especially the second one. I won in 2009, I think it was, or 2008, 2009. And it was just, I don't know, such a satisfying week because I started the week playing awful, scratched through the first couple of matches, kind of got lucky. Shingo Katayama let me off the hook on the 18th hole and he hit it in the desert on the last hole and let me off the hook. And then Kevin Sutherland, I think, let me off the hook by hitting it in the desert on the 19th hole in the second round. Then all of a sudden I found form on the Friday, and just by the end of the week, I was playing the best I've ever played. So I went from not being able to hit it on Thursday or Wednesday, I think we started scratching through. And then by the end of the week, I think I beat Paul Casey, and I just, whatever had it on a string, I just had it sussed. And I was like 7 or 8 up with 9 to play in a 36-hole match. And it was just so much fun to be playing that well in a big thing and feel you're obviously never in control of golf ever. That's the big illusion, that you can actually feel like you're in control. You're never going to feel in control. But if I ever was, the closest I got was that week, and it turned from the worst form to the best form in for 4 days. It was like great fun. I just loved just that head-to-head, I can beat you today. Oh, you just present me a challenge. Just that feeling of winning the match play, I think, was just a great feeling. Lots of good ones, but I loved the match play. And all the President's Cups, winning matches in the President's Cup, they're pretty amazing.
Well, while we're talking about the President's Cup, there should be another one coming pretty shortly. I know you had a fair amount of involvement in the one that was at Royal Melbourne in 2019. Can we expect any involvement from you in the upcoming President's Cup?
Yeah, I think so. I think the same sort of captain group. Ernie was a captain, and the assistants were myself, Mike Weir, Trevor Immelman, and KJ Choi is a pretty good group that'll probably be involved in around the President's Cup for a while. I think guys like Scotty will obviously get involved, as he probably plays less, which he's played almost every President's Cup for 20 years or something, so maybe even more. So he's probably only got 1 or 2 left maybe, and then he'll sort of come into that fold. So I'm sure I'll be involved at some point. It got backed up a year because of everything got backed up a year. So the Ryder Cup's now this year. It would have been this year, and then it's gone back to the even number years in Charlotte at Quail Hollow President's Cup. So 18 months from now. Or 15 months from now. Should be involved. I'm certainly, Trevor's going to be the captain, Immelman, and we're on a little group app with all those captains, as I said, and having a chat. And Trevor's doing pretty good work with all the team and stuff. So hopefully I can travel gets normal and we can sort of get involved, because it's a great event. It's brilliant.
Excellent. Well, then there's another question about what's been happening recently. It's from Brian. It's a question, where have you been the last couple of years? Have you been overseas or have you been here at home?
Oh, I've been here. We moved back at the start of 19 because I just my kids were getting to that age where it was like, it's kind of the point of no return of school and stuff. They would have got too deep in school if we hadn't kind of left then. So I kind of wanted them to grow up here, at least for a while. And I missed Australia because it had been 20 years. So we came back, and the plan was to just sort of play half time from here, travel over, play sort of 15, 18 tournaments and do it in 4 or 5 week chunks and then sort of have my cake and eat it too, kind of was the plan. But that didn't really work out with the COVID thing. I took 19 off because I just needed a bit of spell. I'd been playing awful and just wanted to settle in Australia and stuff and then get going and playing a few. And that COVID sort of changed all that. So I don't know, adjusting. I don't know what's going to go on. I mean, if we get normal travel again, I'll certainly play a bit. We've got the architects of the golf architecture company that's doing really well, and that's kind of fun. But I guess the initial answer is I've been here mostly. Yeah.
Question here from Lizzie: what's your favourite course to play on?
Look, I mean, I'll give an honourable. I mean, I love Royal Melbourne. I love the old course, St Andrews. St Andrews, to be fair, old course, probably like if you pushed me into a corner and said you could have any course tomorrow in perfect weather with your perfect group, where would you play? I'd probably say the old course because I just love the place so much. It's like a religious experience going there for me. Like it just affects you. Like the old course, there's something about it. But Swinley Forest is a little course near Sunningdale and Wentworth because Harry Colt, who did all those courses, he had a part of Sunningdale and all those great sort of heathland courses, St George's Hill of sort of west of London there. And he had a part of Pine Valley. Swinley Forest is like one of my favorite places to play golf. Like it's just fantastic. It's like a mini little version of Pine Valley. So I'll say Swinley Forest because it's off the beaten path. But honourable mentions to like Pine Valley and Cypress Point and Pebble Beach and Oakmont and those places are nuts. I mean, they're just amazing. And Royal Melbourne's in that group for sure.
Nice. Well, Royal Melbourne's very accessible for you. Living in Melbourne, but with travel restrictions, the rest are a little bit tougher to get to, I suppose. This plays into the next question from Peter. He'd like to know, who would you like to play your next round of golf with? So assuming that travel restrictions aren't a problem, anyone can go anywhere, who would you play with?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know, actually. There's lots of people. I mean, because I always like, I mean, it'd be nice to play with like outside of like my parents or like sort of that great answer, which is probably really the true answer, you know. Guys who played on tour with, I mean, it's like, and I'd love to play with Scotty again, just like in a casual round, because we played so many rounds together. But if I go back to like all the people you've played with over your whole life, I don't know, that's a hard one. I'd say mum and dad.
Okay. If they're watching, I'm sure they'd be very proud to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, last question is from Wade. He'd like to know, what's your best golf tip? Now, I'm not sure if that was about how to play golf or how to swing the club, but in the whole spectrum of golf, what's your best tip?
Play golf with your body, not with your mind. Or swing the club with your body, not with your mind. You know what I mean? Like our mind is really good at like working out yardages and maybe working out what club to hit, working out deciding where the wind comes from and all that. But it's terrible at telling your body how to move. You know, you don't tell your body how to walk, you just walk. So if you can get out of your mind and into your body and swing, like close your eyes and just swing the club without a ball there and just feel your body move. And if you can get in that place when you play, you'll get there a lot faster. You know, because your body has the answers. You've got the DNA, you've got the same makeup and build up, same muscles and nerve fibers that Tiger Woods says. Everybody does. Like we're all got the same blueprint, you know, basically with variation. And we can all do it. The only thing that gets in our way is our concept of what we're trying to do and us thinking about what we're doing. So the less you can do that, the more you can trust how you feel and not try to look a certain way or be a certain way, you'll do better. Because I guarantee you, for everybody who hasn't worked it out yet, which is almost everybody, the right swing is way different from what you think it is. You know, it'll feel different from what you think it is, but it'll feel good. Does that make sense? Play golf with your body, not your mind.
That's a great tip. I'm sure it'd be hard to actually put into action, but if
that's a goal, though, you can have a goal. Yeah. You can't do it all at once, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it in terms of the questions from the Big Swing Golf followers. So thanks, Geoff, for happily answering all the US Open questions and the other quite open questions as well. Appreciate your time today, Geoff.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers. See ya.